Hello, everybody, and welcome to an OCB Natural Edge special edition. In this episode, I am joined with our male team from our first official non-US affiliate, Team Australia. So on here, I have the promoter of the event down there, our coordinator, and also an OCB pro, Lisa Blackburn. And Lisa has brought a team of her esteemed colleagues, some of the best male competitors down from the land down under. Some of these people are actually competing in the US and tearing it up, but we're going to get to that in a minute. But before we begin and do our introductions, I want to start with Lisa. Lisa, thank you for coming on and bringing your team. And could you tell us a little bit about how you got OCB to Australia? What was that journey like?
Thanks for having us, Sally. I really appreciate it. Um, I guess it started with in my last season, which was 2023. Um, I had decided to go and compete overseas, and OCB was one of the federations I had been looking at. The reason I was looking at OCB is I've competed in pretty much every single natural federation here in Australia. Some of the divisions are quite different. And just where my physique was at, I was a little bit confused as to where I fit and where I felt the direction of where I was going. And I just, for me, bodybuilding is it's all about the experience as well. So I was really keen just to go and try new things, travel, meet new people. And I've been following OCB a little bit on the socials. I just really liked what I saw. So I decided to go and give it a try. So I competed at the Apex show, which is in Norfolk. And the reason I did that show was it was in the time of year I was looking at competing. It was also 1 week before the Yorton Cup. So if I did happen to earn pro at that show, there was an opportunity to go directly to Yorton Cup the week after. So I was fortunate enough to for it to be a pro qualifier for women's physique, and I earned my pro card at that show. And then, yeah, obviously, I took the opportunity to go and compete at Yorton Cup, which was the following week, and I was already there. So, yeah, went down there, had an amazing time, met the wonderful people, yourself and Marjorie and Chad and Frank. And I think I was just chatting to Marjorie on the side and just talking about what was happening in Australia and just how much I appreciated the community from OCB, just from what I'd experienced at Norfolk and then Yorton Cup. And it was just a very different vibe to what I'd experienced previously in all the shows. And I've done 27 shows now, so I've competed quite a few shows, and as I said, multiple federations in 3 different countries. So I've had a wide variety of experiences. And I think just from that conversation, yeah, we then after Yorton, I think we all caught up about a month or so later and had a chat and yeah, talked about bringing OCB down here and letting other Australians experience what OCB has to offer.
And I got to say one thing about what is now expanded into, oh God, we're 6 countries now. We had no intention whatsoever of ever expanding OCB out of the US. You sold us on being able to have a foreign affiliate that understood our organization, that espoused the same values that we did, that would just make a great teammate. You sold us as well as, I mean, it was like a two-way street. And it's just been let me just put it this way. You were a great first non-US promoter we could possibly have. You're an amazing promoter, just great to work with, and a top-notch athlete who happens to gather some amazing athletes. 2 years in a row, I've watched your show. Last year, you brought one of your competitors to the Yorton Cup, and how did she do again?
Yes, so Bonnie Schultz, who was our first OCB bikini pro, and I will say, so she debuted at our show. That was her first ever competition.
Wow.
So Yorton Cup was her second only ever competition and her pro debut. And yeah, she placed fourth out of, I think we had 74 bikini pros
Yep.
last year.
Yep. She
Yeah,
won.
so
She,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
she won her class, made it to
Yeah,
the
she won the
overall,
class.
and she was
Yeah.
fourth overall. An
Yeah.
incredible journey. And the talent that you have lined up is amazing. And I'm going to start talking to that talent now because here's somebody that I have been watching from your videos, from your show. And we're going to go alphabetical. So I'm going to start with Cameron. Cameron, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your bodybuilding journey.
Hi, Sully. Yeah, thanks for having all of us. Um, so yeah, I'm Cameron Jones. I've been competing for the past couple of years. So I've just finished my second season. I did my first season in 2022, which consisted of two shows, and then this recent season in 2025, I competed in five different shows. So it all began back in high school, which was about 12 years ago. I started lifting with my brother, who also did a competition, and he did one when he was a teenager. But I didn't step on stage for 10 years down the track. But I just had that passion for hard training, and I just yeah, I love being in the gym. You couldn't keep me out of it. And so over time, that just progressed. And about 4 years ago, I started with a coach with the goal of eventually competing. I decided to, just set some further goals. And um, I was already doing 90% of the work. So I thought, why not just go that bit further and commit to stepping on the stage? And that first season sparked a fire in me. And then that allowed me to just have a really nice, productive off season for 2.5 years. And then, yeah, just had a really, really smooth run with this recent preparation. It started as a mini cut, just like Scott, and then it just progressed. I was originally going to compete at the end of this year, but everything was running smoothly. The strength was really good, and then my physique was just getting better throughout this mini cut. So I decided to jump into season A. I saw OCB had a show coming up, so I reached out to Lisa and thought that would be a good way to finish my season. So I did the IFBB Queensland competition, which is an NPC untested show. So that was my first competition. I also did ICN Queensland State Show, and then the national show. Um, I also did WNBF, which Scott and James both did. And then, yeah, finished it with OCB. And I really thought that that was the best show. I probably looked the best at that show compared to my other shows. And I just had a great experience. Had about 15 family members come and watch me. Got to put on a nice routine. And yeah, just surrounded by great athletes, just like the ones on this call.
And what categories did you do throughout your career? Have you always stayed with the classic or have you bounced around?
So the first season, I did bodybuilding and classic, just to find my foot and see sort of what I enjoyed. And classic definitely um, was my favorite. I just love the artistic posing. I like that balance between size and symmetry, and just I think OCB have defined classic the way I define it, and that's why I entered that category, particularly for OCB. This season, I also jumped into bodybuilding in the WNBF, and I got to compete with Scott in that one, which was fun. So we were in the overall for the season A show. But yeah, definitely classic physique, and particularly for my future seasons.
We're looking forward to seeing you unleash yourself here in America at some point. But yeah, it's been great to follow you from a distance, and great job so far.
Yeah, thanks. I'll definitely do the international show next time, whether that's Europe or the US. I'll definitely be over there one day.
Be great to see you. I'd love to see you at the Jordan Cup. I think you'd have a good time with that.
Yeah, I'd love it. That's a goal of mine.
All right. Hey, same question to James. James, tell us a little about yourself, your bodybuilding journey, and where you're at now.
Um, yeah, so thank you for having me on here, and giving us a platform to, open up about ourselves. Um, so I often get caught up because of my accent, like being in Australia, having an English accent still. So I grew up I was born in Australia, grew up in England, started my bodybuilding in England, and I did the teenage Mr. Britain for the NBF. Where I managed to win that one. But yeah, I kind of got into bodybuilding because I was always quite a high level sports person in your rugby, hockey, cricket. Loved it at school, but unfortunately had a couple of years of bad luck getting knocked to the head, and having like a hell of a lot of concussions in a short period of time, purely for bad luck. So my teachers took me out and put me in the gym and said, right, good luck getting yourself knocked out in here. And it kind of just grew from there. Um, yeah, I just enjoyed training. And then I actually don't remember, funnily enough, how it started, going from the gym to stepping on stage, but it did. And yeah, I then moved over to Australia 3.5 years ago, so 2021. Continued to compete, against the advice of a lot of bodybuilders, but competed every single season. So season A and B for the last 5 years. I haven't had an off season yet. I think this is actually going to be my first off season this year. But I love the sport. I was passionate for stepping on stage, and the actual sport of it. Yeah, so I've done a lot of seasons. I think it's 9 seasons back to back, all over the world, every federation. Loved every second of it. And we actually did the maths to it. I think so. For 9 seasons, I got 41 national titles, five
Wow.
pro cards, 6 pro national titles, all still as a junior. So still at the age of 23, which I believe it's some kind of record, but God knows who tracks that. But yeah, I just love the sport. I love stepping on stage and actually being competitive. I had the pleasure of stepping on stage with Cam as well, who is genuinely one of the most impressive classic guys I've had the pleasure to step on stage next to, and a couple of the top boys this year. But yeah, the goal is to take a little bit of time off, reset, and go international next year. And in regards to OCB, so I was the first classic overall winner. When I saw the poster for the show, I was trying to plan my season. I saw the poster and I was like, that's a really cool looking show. Like, being honest to Lisa now, I was kind of just drawn by the color. You never see like such a bright poster, with the light blue. I thought, oh yeah, that'd be cool. My mate just moved up there. I thought, all right, yeah, I can stay with him. I'll plan it out. And we just happened to have an amazingly run show, great stage, really high caliber of athlete, especially for the first show in the country. Wasn't a huge number of like competitors, but the quality was definitely there. And I managed to, yeah, from that show, I got nominated for the Bendigo Sports Person of the Year, and won it for that month, which was really, really good. and it allowed me to kind of share my story about using bodybuilding in the sport to help deal and cope with mental health and well, more specifically brain injuries to me, but teaching young men and women, but mainly men, to use training and even use the sport as a mental health athlete outlet, and become an athlete to make the most of your mental health and making the most of it to in the best possible way. Yeah, and that was really good. So winning the award for the Bendigo Sports Person of the Year gave me another platform to kind of spread word and to use it as a positive outlet. I hope to continue to do that.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see you compete in America. Again, there's an embarrassment of riches on here right now where all four of these athletes are absolutely incredible. The talent that's down there is amazing. But one thing I want to circle back on is somebody who's had multiple severe concussions himself. I know how that can impact a lot, and I I applaud you putting that message out and utilizing the sport for something more than just vanity purposes and getting on stage. So, kudos to you, my friend. That's you know, that's amazing. I can see one of the little catchphrases I use all the time when I'm talking to young bodybuilders is not to be a beautifully wrapped empty box. Meaning that in the sport, I've come across so many amazing physiques where the people inside are just empty and hollow, just vain, using the sport for every negative thing that you can think of. And coming across great athletes like yourself who also see the other side of the sport and use it for more than it is, and actually, put something of substance in that box, the total package, so to say. It's pretty good to see. So thank you, James. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the person who's closest to our soil right now, one of our members from down under that happened to compete in the US show, get his pro card here. I don't know if that's cheating or not, but you're still part of Team Australia. That would be Matt. Matt, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey through bodybuilding.
Morning, Sally. Morning, everyone else. Thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it. So my bodybuilding journey is probably a little bit, wouldn't say different, but so I'm in the Australian Air Force, and that's why I'm located overseas currently. My bodybuilding journey kind of started when I joined the military. So I grew up out in the country, didn't really have access to a gym, played sport my whole life up until I joined the military in 2013. When I joined the military, I soon learnt that like fitness and all that sort of stuff kind of goes hand in hand with the military. And once I got out of recruits and I got to my first training unit, there wasn't much to do outside of studying if you really wanted to. So a lot of us would go to the gym afterwards, and I had no idea what I was doing, and went with a couple of guys that had grown up in the city and had access to a gym, and they slowly sort of started, teaching me small things. And then you get on Google and you start trying to look up like, why am I getting bigger? What should I train? What should I eat? All that sort of stuff. And it kind of just sort of gained momentum from there. And it wasn't about bodybuilding. It was more about what can I do to get better at football? How can I get stronger and not get knocked off the ball? How can I get, quicker when I sprint, that kind of stuff. So that small, not obsession, but, enjoyment of being in the gym and training and working hard and, going to football training, all kind of over about 8 years, led to a point where I'd gained about 20 kilos of muscle. Because when I joined, I was 77 kilos for the Australians, and pretty much like 6'3", 77 kilos, like a stick, pretty much. And then after putting on about 20 kilos of muscles, the goalpost kept on changing on like, oh, I'll get to like 90 kilos. That'd be good for football. Oh, I'll get to like 95 kilos. Up until the point of, it was 2021 the end of the year, I'd applied for a position over in Florida, which is where I'm located now, with work to try and get overseas for a long-term posting. Uh, I found out, or I was concerned that if I got it, I wasn't going to be able to see my family very much for a long period of time, which meant that if I wanted to try and see them as much as possible before I moved overseas, I wanted to not have to dedicate my time to football, which meant football training 2 nights a week, and then playing a game on Saturday. And I was located about 5 hours away from my family. So what I did was I cut away football for the year, and all my friends had been into me like, "Oh, you should do a bodybuilding competition. You should do a bodybuilding competition." And I finally caved. So I think it was 2022, I competed in my first competition. So I did season A. I did ICN, and I know you asked Cameron about whether he'd always just done classic physique or if he'd done bodybuilding as well. And I was kind of the size where I was still trying to figure out the same sort of thing, sort of like where I fitted. So I did classic physique and bodybuilding, and I did quite well in that show and qualified for nationals, but I kind of hadn't expected that after my first preparation. So I ended up going into like a 4 week sort of maintenance phase. And then I went back into prep and I competed in season B where I did an INBA show, which was a specialized defense and military personnel show. And then nationals I'm pretty sure it was 2022 season B. So I pretty much did a 9 month prep, which was good and bad all at the same time. I'm sure the other guys on the call have done extremely long preps, and they've probably noticed how their body fails to respond as you get further and further into that prep. So I didn't probably present my best package that season B, and it probably left like a slightly dirty taste in my mouth. But yeah, that whole year before I moved overseas to America, I pretty much was in competition or in prep. But it meant that I had the flexibility with training and nutrition and stuff. Instead of being dedicated to, playing football on Saturday, I could disappear on a flight and go down and see my family and still have access to like a gym, funnily enough, in Bendigo. That's where I'd go into. I'd drive about 45 minutes to go train and get my groceries and stuff because my family lives out on a farm. But yeah, that's kind of where it all ended up leading to. So it was kind of strange, it was all to do with sport to start with. And then the military definitely had a big impact. And then all my friends getting in my ear saying, you'd have a lot of potential, whether they knew bodybuilding or not. And yeah, so that's that 2022 season kind of left a little bit of a dirty taste in my mouth, just the end part. So I took a really big off season. So 23, 24, and then halfway through essentially a 2 year off season, before finding out my posting was only meant to be 3 years over in Florida, but I got extended an extra year, and that was the catalyst for me deciding that I had enough time to do a prep phase in America, still have time to travel after that and enjoy my time in America, because I'm trying to see as much as I can while I'm here. Why not? So yeah, I competed this year, starting prep in late January, and I did 3 shows overall. My main key show was the OCB show that I did. That was my main focus because that was the only natural competition that I entered this season. But it was my key focus, purely because obviously we're all naturals. That's where like I want to compete. That's where I want to be competitive. I enjoyed the other shows, but yeah, the OCB show in Pensacola, which was the Emerald Coast Classic, is only about an hour away. That was my key focus. Thankfully, it was a pro qualifier. I think there was about 16 or 17 classic physique athletes, but this is the first time where I had to choose in between bodybuilding and classic physique, because OCB doesn't allow crossovers. So we were looking at my physique as I got closer and closer to the competition, and decided that classic physique was the way to go. Not only that, they didn't have many people sign up for bodybuilding, and it wasn't going to be a pro qualifier for that. I don't think they actually had any bodybuilding athletes. So that was another, you know, deciding factor to do classic because previously I've been penalized in other federations for having too big a legs, which let's not get into that. But OCB, thankfully, definitely did not. And yeah, so I won my pro card in that Pensacola show, which was amazing. I didn't have any expectations for this whole prep. After having that dirty taste in my mouth and having such a long off season, I come in completely mentally refreshed, physically refreshed. My body responded the best that it's ever responded in a prep. I won't say that it was an easy prep, but it was much simpler and straightforward than the previous preps I've done. My body just was on point with digestion. My sleep was good. My training was incredible. Kind of like Cameron, like as I started going through my prep phase, it just like everything was on point and it just kept on getting better and better and better. I'd never had that much muscle density before. I'd never had that much muscle size. I'd never been that lean before. So everything just went amazingly well. And my whole season was incredible, to be brutally honest. And it still hasn't quite sunk in because I'm only 2 weeks post competition phase, I guess. But yeah, so the OCB show was incredible. I'd never competed in OCB before. I'd been keeping my eye on it and talking to people back in Australia that had done a couple of the OCB or the OCB show that got run earlier this year. The promoters and stuff over here were incredible. The show was awesome. Yeah, I had an absolute blast.
And you got put on my radar by a mutual friend of
Yeah,
ours, who Angela, who was somebody who I deployed with when I was still on active duty. And so she hit me up and she was like, "You got to keep an eye on this kid." And so she tossed me
yeah.
your Instagram page, and I took a look, and I'm like, "Wow."
She ran the Defense and Emergency Services show for IMBA that I competed in late 2022. So that's where I got to know her, and I've stayed in contact with her pretty closely.
Yeah, she was right. She was like, "You're gonna like this kid." And in full disclosure, I did a full court press after I saw your physique. I was trying to get you up to my pro show in
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
yeah,
Timing didn't work out. Timing didn't work out. But what was so impressive was the quality of the lineup that you had down there. You know, I
yeah,
mean, all the way up to your overall pose down. But you could just see that classic physique is your calling. I don't know what they were telling you about your legs, but I didn't, there ain't no issues there. But it was your posing that really just set it off.
yeah,
Classic physique competitors are known for their symmetry and proportions. Overall, there's no size limit on classic physique and OCB as long as you can maintain your symmetry and your proportions. But the other key aspect of that is being able to like really hit those poses. But that is something that is universal with all the Australians. Every freaking show, well, there's only been two, coming up on three shows that we've had down there. The one thing I've noticed is the posing overall. The preparations are incredible from Team Australia. I think that is something that any of your American counterparts that are watching this right now, keep watching these posing videos, watch how these competitors are moving, and pay attention to that because that is a key influencer on stage, particularly when physiques are close. But great job. Uh, so Matt, how much more time, if it's declassified and you can say, how much more time do you have in the States?
I've got another year and a half. So
Okay.
essentially 18 months. My plan at the moment, everyone, even when I was talking to you after my show, the Pensacola show, and you're like, come on, come up to Massachusetts. And
Okay.
I was really tempted. I was trying to make it work.
Uh,
But obviously I'd already entered a couple of competitions afterwards. And you were saying, come up to the Orton Cup as well, which I really want to do. But after I think I've done about a 20-week prep now. My plan is, especially tying in with another show that I competed in, I think I'll go into a recovery phase slash a bit of a push phase, try and make some improvements, and then likely going to compete again next year. Try and qualify for the Orton Cup, and hit a couple more shows next year before I head back to Australia in January 2027.
Well, hopefully we see you this year at the Jordan Cup, even if you
I'll
just
be
come
up
up to
there.
support. Yeah, come up and
Yeah,
support
Lisa
Team
sent me a message.
Australia. That's
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, love to see you one-on-one up there and hanging out with the rest of the team. Uh,
100%.
All right, now the time for Scott to jump on here. Now, Scott's having a little bit of technical difficulty with his camera, so we're just going to keep throwing pictures up. And as you can see, um, Scott, I have nicknamed him Diesel for a reason. So, Scott, tell us about yourself and your bodybuilding journey.
Bro, what did you say? You nicknamed me?
Diesel, because dude, you are like built like a freaking diesel engine. Amazing
Thank,
physique. Appreciate you.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, so um, I've been competing for 12 years now. So I did my first show in 2013. Um, Basically, the main driver of that was I started personal training, and it was basically just I wanted to get some experience with like building muscle and having something that I could actually offer clients and that sort of thing. So bodybuilding was kind of my uh, the first sort of avenue I took to try and build a client base, I guess. Um, Initially, starting out training was I used to play Australian rules football when I was younger, so um, I'd had a whole bunch of injuries, and that was when I started training. I ended up retiring from footy because I had like 3 injuries in one season, and that was enough to say wrap that one up. And at the time, I was studying to be a PT, so that was all of those injuries keeping me out of the gym, and by that stage, I was enjoying training more than I was enjoying playing footy. So I put all my time and focus into training after that point. Um, and yeah, first gym I went to, I had a mentor who was a natural pro bodybuilder himself, Hazer Cayley. So he'd won an overall bodybuilding world title with WMBF. So he was running WMBF at the time, and he suggested that I compete that season. Um, so yeah, that was my first comp back in 2013. I competed every season B through 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Took 2020 off because of COVID. Competed in 2021. Took a year off, competed 23. And then, as Cam said before, I was doing mini cut and was planning on doing end of next year. But given how I was looking and the diet was going along pretty well, so I thought, stuff it, just push a bit harder and prep for season A 25. And yeah, that was a pretty successful season overall. So I ended up doing 4 shows and a guest pose. Um, so I competed with WMBF, won the overall bodybuilding there and my pro card. I did a guest pose in my home state of Adelaide with ICN because I'm already a pro with them. Uh, then I went with NBA, competed in the bodybuilding pro show there, um, and won the overall with that one. I competed in the ICN pro show, came second there in my first pro show with them, and then finished off my season with OCB and was fortunate enough to win the overall of that one as well and my pro card. So yeah.
Now, is there any way where you're going to get you to do the so-called season B and come to the Yorton Cup and see how you do here?
Uh, I, it's not on the cards for this year, but it's
Okay.
definitely on the cards for next year. So I'm still looking at competing end of next year, as the original plan was. But But yeah, I mean, by the end of my season, I'd already been dieting for like 34 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, as Matt was saying, I was at the point where my body just wasn't responding anymore. So yeah, shutting the season down and get healthy again and hit the next prep hard.
Yeah, I would just love to see you come into the States at some point. The density in particular that your physique displays is incredible.